We're back with Tech Talk, where we continue to dive deep into the innovations that are transforming industries and reshaping the world, only on Now Media TV.
Welcome back to Tech Talk. Now, cybersecurity is an ever-evolving field because technology evolves and the threats evolve, and we have to ensure that the next generation of technology and cybersecurity pros are able to meet the challenge. With me today is Heather Noggle. She is the Interim Executive Director for the Missouri Cybersecurity Center of Excellence. Heather, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I want to start off by talking about that. Certainly, training the next generation of cybersecurity professionals is something that is critical, and I know that that's something that you're doing right now. Can you talk a little bit about that and about what you're doing at the Missouri Cybersecurity Center of Excellence?
Sure. We know that cybersecurity is not an entry-level field. And so the training for cybersecurity includes a lot of IT basics and also networking basics alongside the computer piece of it, some software development. And we are a nonprofit at the Missouri Cybersecurity Center of Excellence, and we are working to get individuals to basically a level of Security Plus where they can take the certification test, CompTIA Security Plus, and from there, then additionally add some communication and some leadership skills atop that in our one-year program and some experience doing cybersecurity assessments and working on some penetration testing, not as obviously the lead, but in a team of people doing some writing and some requirements and some scope setting. And then the other piece of that is working in our security operations center, so some experience as a SOC analyst in that year. So we think that combination of skills will really help an individual stand out amongst all the other applicants for early jobs in cybersecurity.
Well, you mentioned that there isn't really an entry level for cybersecurity, that you need to have that IT experience background. Just briefly, what does that provide for the candidate that is necessary for them to succeed in the cybersecurity field?
To be a practitioner really means you need to understand the threats that are coming at us and where the vulnerabilities are that those threats are exploiting. And so within a system that an analyst might be monitoring or within an assessment taking place, to be able to communicate in both technical and people terms will really set an applicant apart. And it's really fundamental, necessary knowledge for new practitioners coming in as they are looking again to differentiate themselves. And we really feel the holistic person is what we're training. And these are fundamental to be able to understand the work as it's going to come. And it is going to evolve too. It's only going to get more complex.
And that's so important in today's job market because, as I understand it, this is probably one of the more challenging job markets that I've seen in my career. Do you see that market changing in any direction anytime soon?
Oh, I'm hopeful. I think that we are going to see expansion in the cybersecurity roles. We see a lot of gap right now in those roles asking for more experience than entry level. That the jobs that are available right now are looking for 3 to 5 years or more experience. And so we're hopeful that with the additional training that we're giving our students, that maybe some shift will take place where we recognize that some of the jobs that are saying we need 3 to 5 years experience maybe don't. And so at least working locally and regionally, we can work with these employers and show them our candidates and their skills. And everything starts somewhere. So we'll start locally and regionally and maybe be able to make an impact in building really clear job requirements so that people in their HR company and within their companies are not asking for the wrong things. So that's another aspect of what we need to do with workforce.
Yeah, and one of the things that you mentioned too, that they really need to have as far as the skill set goes, they need to be an advocate for cybersecurity, really, right?
Yeah.
And in order to have that, they need to understand some of the business aspects, some of the soft skills and all of that. But what are some of the things that maybe not only the cybersecurity professionals, but just a business in general, somebody who is a promoter for cybersecurity in that business, what can they do to help promote, be that advocate for cybersecurity to help secure their business more?
I think that cybersecurity needs to be a part of the culture in terms of what we discuss in our organizations, that we are constantly being attacked and we don't necessarily see it because these cyber attacks to regular people feel very invisible until they're very tangible. Like if someone is locked out of their systems, they become very tangible. And the idea of building discussions around how we're attacked through email and through voicemail and also through text messages, just conversations that are more interesting than our traditional small talk of sports, etc. I think that there can be a lot happening within an organization, and it really does start with human resources being on board with changes needed in the business and the technology and working together cross-functionally in teams.
Well, within the organization, I know that sometimes they look at cybersecurity and information security as like the office of no.
Oh, yes.
How can a leader in the security field change that perception? Because really, information security and cybersecurity, we want the business to be able to do what they need to do, just do it more securely.
No, because goes a long way. And I think also that when the difficult no's come, and they will, that the relationship building between the IT and the cybersecurity people and the rest of the organization is very important so that the practitioners are seen as human beings who are doing their best to minimize the risks for the business and keep the business's doors open and everything operating appropriately. And if they can make fun of themselves also, I mean, if they can call themselves the department and know that makes an idea of we understand we are not making your jobs easier, but we do make them possible. And so there's some dialogue there and that is an interesting way to go because it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It is a series of discussions and it is a lot of work taking place in ways that don't necessarily seem like they're going to make changes to the bottom line of the organization. So,
Some sometimes with the smaller businesses, now they don't really have the capability of having a lot of folks there. In fact, I've worked with smaller businesses, still do, and I like the joke that I know you just mentioned that sometimes it's just one person. And you could say the department of one. I've called it the department of Greg or dog. So sometimes I'll call myself dog for that reason. But you can still do an awful lot for small businesses, even as just one person. How is it different though? Are there any different approaches for small businesses as far as to get them more aware of what they need to do?
I think so. With small, super small businesses, we'll talk about from one person to 10, and I'm not talking about 10 IT people, I'm talking about 10 total people in the
Hmm.
company. That there's an approach of perhaps they're not doing anything whatsoever, so we can start to talk about the blending of how you behave at home to be more secure and how you behave at work, and that these are behavior-based and people-based things to do, and not necessarily big technological whiz-bang tools that make you secure but your own behaviors and learning and upskilling in this modern digital age of how to behave online. And also you can teach your kids. So that's the approach I like to use is these are things within our grasp that we can do to make ourselves more secure.
Do you see sometimes that by bringing up this is how you can improve your security at home and in your personal life, that kind of helps to ignite the light bulb, so to speak, over people's heads, saying, "Oh, I see now why this makes sense."
It takes, like anything, new message, it takes some conversation more than one time. I think the marketers like to tell us it's 7 times or more we have to touch a different way, same message before really the eye the eye rolling goes away and the head nodding begins, maybe. Whenever I speak to civic groups, I will sometimes speak with groups of small organizations in a networking group and be the featured speaker. I will usually leave that group with their eyes wide open without intentionally trying to scare them. So the initial, I think we can get their attention. It's there. It's the follow up to make sure we're doing projects that do help make changes in cybersecurity and people's behavior and working with their passwords on multi-factor authentication and they're doing their backups and patching their systems and all the things that we talk about when we talk about cyber hygiene as the first step.
And it's so amazing in that really cybersecurity and information security is one place where the 80/20 rule really does apply. In fact, it might even be 90/10. There's not much that you need to do from a basic level that it doesn't take much, but it has such great dividends. But a lot of times people don't understand that. So many years ago, the United States federal government, I can't remember exactly the first date of this, maybe it was 2010-ish or somewhere around there, came up with the idea of National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which is what October is, which is a great way to help remind people and to provide them with information. What are some of the strategies that businesses can use to leverage Cybersecurity Awareness Month?
Oh, yes. It is October, Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So that's a really good topic to bring up, Greg. There are ways we can interact with computers and technology that, again, massively diminish the attack surface of our individual and our businesses and our homes. And so these basic cyber hygiene practices, I'll list a few of them. They have to do with passwords and managing passwords because I don't know how many accounts you have, but I'm upwards of 400 different online accounts I
Oh
have to
my
manage.
goodness. Yeah, absolutely. It's just incredible the number of accounts that we have out there nowadays.
So the best practice of working with something like that is a password manager. And so I
Right.
only have to memorize the passwords I manually have to type in each day. And the rest of those can be super strong and managed beautifully in my password manager. And then multi-factor authentication is probably the most important. The password is not enough anymore. So talking about multi-factor authentication and good ways to do that. We could spend 45 minutes on this, so I'll rest on those two. If you're just going to make two changes, manage your passwords and add multi-factor authentications. If you have time for two more, make sure your computer's operating systems and software are patched. And to do that, you have to know what computers and software you have. So even at home or in a small business, knowing what those things are and then backing up your data. So those are the big four, in my opinion. If you want to start somewhere, that's where you start.
That's awesome. It's great advice for folks that not only for their business, but for their personal life as well, too, because really you don't have to be a cybersecurity expert in order to secure your systems. You just need to do a few simple things, and that'll get you the majority of the way there. We always say in information security and cybersecurity that no system is totally secure because the only way that that happens is if you can't access it, and then it's useless, right? So,
Yes.
well,
And
Heather,
then, do you
go
have
ahead.
30 more seconds?
30 more seconds.
Those four things will also help you realize that you have more work to do. I like to say if we're all playing a game of Super Mario, there's always another princess and another castle, and every bit of awareness and better thing we do, we need to feel like we have more to do. So that's where I want to leave it. Do those four things so you're ready to do more.
Fabulous. Well, Heather, really appreciate you coming on and sharing those wonderful tips and knowledge with us today.
Thank you.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.